Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
It's a lousy day out, so you might as well do some math. Horrible day.
Yeah.
So just two people. We'll wait at 9 o'clock. We'll minimize this. Minimize that. We'll minimize this. Move this over here. Move that there. I got my paintbrush, and I think okay. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do today. It should be fast. It shouldn't be that big a deal today. When you do your homework, okay, let me just go over what you need to do just to be. See, the problem with this site is they separate homework and quizzes, and so you sort of forget what you need to do. Let me go to course tools. This is something I have. Assignment manager. That's good. That'll show you what you need to do. This is for me. You don't see this view, but basically what we're going to do. See, we did 9-1 yesterday or a couple of days ago. 9-2 is what we're going to do today, solving using the quadratic formula. On Tuesday, we're going to do 9-3, and that's it for math. That's it for math. Then the rest of the course is you're going to do quiz 9A, right, on these three sections. Then you're going to take the exam 3 on chapters 8 and 9, and the final. All right. Now you have 5 takes on the exams. All right. You got to have faith in yourself that you could take the exam immediately. Okay, some people they get nervous, they don't want to take the exam, and they end up getting a 0. Okay, that's a stupid thing to do when you're a student. Okay, especially when you have 5 things to do, five takes. Okay, I gotta believe you know something about chapter 8 and 9. Okay, even if you get a 50, that's better than not doing anything. Well, if you did get the 50, you still got 4 more takes to do better. All right, and the same thing with the final. I'm saying that only because of the experience I've had teaching this class for like a whole bunch of years. So that's what you got to do. All right. So let's go right over here to what we're supposed to do. Let's go ahead and do a preview of this. And let me minimize. I don't want to see this. Too many windows. Come on, don't do that to me. Come down here, minimize that. And this is the first time. Okay, let me give you a little background. This whole thing is the quadratic formula. So right now, whenever you have a problem with a square in it, you have to set it equal to 0. You have to factor it. And then what you got to do is set the factors equal to 0, and you get an answer. You've done that a million times. With the quadratic formula, it saves you the trouble of having to factor anything. They actually give you a formula that says you plug in some numbers, you do the order of operations, and if you do everything right, you'll get the answer. All right. And so I think on my website right over here, let me go ahead, put cs.stick.edu. And let me scroll down to Algebra 2, and then using the quadratic formula. I should change that to quadratic formula. And using the quadratic formula, let's solve this thing. Okay, let's solve this thing right over here. So let me write this down. 6x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. All right. Now, you could try to solve this using what? What's that thing called? So the magic number technique.
Magic number, yes.
Yeah, magic number, and you'll get an answer. Okay. But here's what they want you to do with the quadratic formula. First off, what the quadratic formula says is you got to make sure your equation looks like this, which is not going to be hard to do. Okay, put it in that standard form, which is what you would have done anyway. All they're saying is make sure you have your squares, your x's, and your numbers, and equal to 0. That's what you would do anyway, using the old technique of factoring. All right. Now what you want to do is, what are this A, B, and C? Well, those A, B's, and C's deal with the numbers. You're going to match up the standard formula. This is called the standard form. Standard form. And what you're going to do is compare your equation with the standard form. And so A is the number in front of the x squared. Well, they're telling you A equals 6, and that's true. A equals 6. Make sure you do that. B is the number in front of the x. The number in front of the x is with the sign -1. That's your B. And you're going to say, well, what's this? What do I need this A, B, and C for? You'll see in a second. And then C is the number, the raw number. That's -2. C equals -2. All right. That's where you get these numbers right over here. See this beautiful looking equation? Okay, this is the quadratic formula. Even a quadratic equation, that's fine. They're synonymous. Okay, this is what they have in the diagram here, the quadratic equation. All they're asking you to do is accept this as gospel. They're saying x is equal to this big calculation here, -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Looks complicated, but they're asking you to do this. Take these numbers that you say is 6, -1, and -2, plug them into the formula. Plug them into the formula. And I like the way he did this. B is supposed to be -1. Everywhere you see a B, you plug in -1 in parentheses, because B is supposed to represent this -1 here. Make sure you put it in parentheses. All right, so that's what he's doing here. B is -1. Beautiful, beautiful. -4a. A is 6. So 6 has got to be in parentheses for the A. The C is -2 in parentheses. All divided by 2 times 6. That's what he did first. He just plugged in those numbers. All right, there's no factoring involved here. So what do you think so far?
It's weird.
Well, the math is weird. You just have to that's the formula, and you plug in numbers. It saves you from having to do a magic number. It saves you from having to do factoring. And in fact, the quadratic formula always gives you an answer if there is one. The problem with chapter 6 is you could only get answers when you could factor the problem, but yet there might be a legitimate answer for the problem. Factoring won't show you that legitimate answer. So we just plug in those numbers right there, and then you do your order of operation. Okay, like on the bottom, 2 times 6 is certainly 12. Okay, 2 times 6 is certainly 12. That's not going to be an issue here. You got to make sure you do what's inside the square root next, right over here. You do your powers first, right? Powers are first. -1 times -1 is 1. Now, what you got to do next is multiply all these numbers together. -4 times 6 is -20, with the sign. So -4 times 6 is -24. -24 times -2 is 48, and that's where they dug up this 48. Again, all we're doing is we plugged in the numbers, we do the order of operations. You know you got to do your powers first. Then you know you got to do your multiplications next. That's the order of operation. That's why he left a plus last. Underneath the square root, you might as well do 1 plus 48 is 49. Okay. And look, the square root of 49 is 7. It turns out if you get a perfect square root in your formula, you could have factored this. You could have factored it the old way. If you don't get a perfect square root, then you couldn't have factored it. And this is the only way to get the answer, is using the formula. All right. And so here's the answer. Square root of 49 is 7. 1 plus 7 is, so you get two answers. 1 plus 7 is 8 over 12, which you know you have to simplify by dividing by 4 over, by divided by 4, 2/3. Or 1 minus 7, negative 6 over 12. Those are your two answers. Okay? Which we could have probably gotten using the, whatever that thing is called, magic number, the magic number. That's it. That's the whole that's the whole chapter. Let's take a look. We'll do a bunch of problems like that. Let's get that's, we don't need that anymore. It's on the website too if you need to look at it. So let's minimize this. All right, problem number 1. Let's minimize this. We don't need this anymore. Write the equation in this form, huh? This is problem number 1, 1 out of 10, huh? Write the equation. So what's A? This is your equation. Looks like it's in standard form already, right? Got squares, your x's, and your numbers. What does A have to be? Let's make it bigger. Maybe you can't see it. Maybe let's make it bigger. Plus. Why doesn't this work? Okay. That's too much. Well, actually. Okay. Why? What's A? If you match this up to this format.
It's 3x.
No, 3. The number.
3, yeah, 3.
A is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Enter. Okay. What's B?
B is 4.
4. Very good. That's it. And C. Good job. A. And
is 8.
C is 8. There you go. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Fantastic. That problem is done. Okay. Now write the equation in standard form. Okay, so see, this is not standard form right over here. Okay, because you have to have an equal 0, which is something you would do anyway, using the old way. So let's go over here, minimize this. Let's clear the screen. Let's clear this out. Kill this. Don't save it. Let's do File, New. Okay. Do this. Okay, so, and it even turns out, all that's required is an equal 0. You can leave the sign alone. Don't worry about, if you're going to use the quadratic equation, you don't need to make the number in front of the x squared a positive. You could leave it negative. It's perfectly okay with the formula. If you had to factor it, you need to make a positive number. But no, we're not worried about that. So you know what you're going to do here, negative 12. Negative x squared. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides to get the equal 0. Minus 12 equals 0. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The A is the number in front of the x squared. The B is the number in front of the x. The C is equal to the number at the end. So what's A?
Yeah, that's x.
Nope. No, A's got to be a number. X is a variable. What's the number in front of the x squared?
It's 1.
Negative 1.
Negative 1.
Negative 1 with the sign.
Mm-hmm.
B is equal to, what's the number in front of the x?
6.
6. And what's C?
It's 12.
Not 12. Always with the sign.
Minus 12.
Minus 12.
Okay.
Well, let's put those numbers in there. Negative 1. Negative 1's okay. B is 6. B is 6. Enter. Okay. And then negative 12 at the end. Negative 12. Good job. Very good job. So 2 out of 10 is done. Okay. Solve using the quadratic formula. Okay. I'll save this. We don't need this. We don't want to worry about this. We can do this one of two ways. Doing this, okay, maybe the quadratic formula is a pain in the neck. All right, so I don't care how you get the right answers. If you want to factor it, okay, try to factor it. I'm going to do it two ways. I'm going to show you that you get the right answer. We're doing it the old way and using the quadratic formula. So I'm going to factor this. If you can factor it quickly to get the answer, great. Okay, so this is going to be x and x, and it looks like plus and minus for the negative 10. And I'm going to say 5 and 2 would give you negative 3 in the middle. And separate your factors here. Set your factors equal to 0. You get x is negative 2,
Mm-hmm.
and x is 5. And plug those numbers in, you'll get the right answer. You go on to the next problem. But I'm going to do this using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula says I need an A and a B and a C. So my A is 1. The number in front of squared is 1.
So it's 1, yeah.
Yeah, okay, up,
6.
edit, undo, drawing. Edit, undo. Okay, I need a B. Okay, don't erase it. Geez. This is separate. Don't look at this. Look at this down here. A is 1. B is
6.
B. No, forget the 6. This
Okay.
down here. Okay, I should have
Oh,
started.
sorry. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So it's 1, it's 3, and it's minus 3.
Not 3.
Minus 3.
Minus 3.
And minus 10.
And very good, minus 10. There's my numbers. All right, now, put this down on your paper someplace. The quadratic formula is equal to big fraction, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay. So all we need to do now is plug in those numbers and see what we get. 2 times 1. A is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. You might as well do that out. 2 times 1 is 2. B, negative B. Negative and negative 3. What do you think negative and negative? See, B is negative 3. So negative and negative 3 is going to be 3.
Yeah.
Plus or minus the square root of, you got to do your powers first. So negative 3 times negative 3 is 9 minus 4. A is 1. And B and C is negative 10. Okay. So I did a little bit of substituting quickly and did the math, like 2 times 8. Why waste my hand doing 2 times 1 when you know 2 times 1 is 2? Negative and negative 3 is 3. I also did the square because you got to do that first. Got to multiply this all out. You got to do your multiplication before you subtract. So negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 10 is 40. So x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 49. I shouldn't have done that. Edit, undo. Edit, undo. Edit, undo drawing. Edit, undo drawing. Okay, I should have just left it as 9 plus 40 divided by 2. And it looks to me like, I think I can sneak it over here. Yeah, I have plenty of room. This is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 divided by 2. Square root of 49 is 7. We could have factored it. And we did factor it. So it's consistent.
Mhm.
This is 3 plus or minus 7, all divided by 2. That's a 7. So here's my two answers. 3 plus 7 is 10, divided by 2, which is 5. And 3 minus 7 is negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. We got the same answers. We're doing it both ways. Okay, same exact answers doing both ways. Now, I'm not saying you got to do it both ways. I'm just saying if you could factor it quickly, because seems to be a little longer for this problem, plugging in. If you could factor it and get it done, get the answer good. Get the answer, you get that's a good thing. So let's see if that's right. I'm sure it is. Plug in negative. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know what the hell happened there. Negative 2, 5. Enter. Yeah, good job. The rest of these problems are going to be the same thing over and over again. Let's try this one. Let's try this. And you know what? I'm going to start fresh. File. Let's close this. Don't save. Okay, file, new. Okay, that's good enough. First thing. Write that problem down. Looks like standard form. Looks beautiful to me. Please go away. Get this out of the way. Please, plus 8y plus 91 equals 0. I would take a minute to see, can I factor this? And I don't think I can factor it. There's no two numbers that multiply out to be 91 and add or subtract to be 8. So don't waste too much time. You can't factor it. That doesn't mean there's not an answer. It just means you can't factor it. And if you can't factor it, and if there is an answer, the answer has a square root in it. That's the problem. So my only alternative is use the formula. Okay, in order to do my formula, I need my A. What's A? What's the number in front of the y squared? There's a 1 there. B is the number in front of the y, which is 8.
Mhm.
C is 91. I'm going to plug it into this formula. I wish, there's got to be a way to plug. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a couple of file, new, a couple of windows open. So one window is just going to have the quadratic formula. Okay. X equals, I'm going to have to do that over and over again. So I might as well put negative b plus or minus square root of b squared
Minus A.
minus
4AC.
4ac. Come on. Minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay. Let's put that. Let's drink it up a little bit there. Okay, let's put this. We'll put it there. All right. So let's plug this stuff in. The bottom is 2 times a. You might as well do 2 times 1 is 2 on the bottom. Negative b. Negative b is 8. Negative b is negative 8. Plus or minus the square root. You got to do your squares first underneath the square root, so you might as well do 8 times 8, 64. Now we got to write the rest of this. Minus 4 times 1 times 91. That's a 91. 91, ugly, very 90. And what you're going to do here is you're going to multiply this out. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 91. So here's what I got. Negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64. Okay, now I'm going to multiply all this out. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And on your calculator, where's my calculator? Calculator is I have it on my phone here. Negative 4.
4 times 91 equals 364.
Negative, this is going to be, make sure you do the signs. Negative
Negative, yeah.
364 over 2. And if I do what's inside the square root, I get negative 8. I got to do what's inside the square root first. Okay, so 64 minus that, minus 64. Okay, geez, I hit the wrong number. 64 minus 364 equals 300, negative 300. Negative 300 over 2, and I'm going to stop. Stop here.
Right.
The reason I'm stopping is for the math that we know in Algebra 2, there's no answer to this problem because you cannot take the square root of a negative number. If you plug in negative 300 and punch it into the calculator, it gives you an error. Can't do it. This is if you go on to more advanced math, you're going to find that there is an answer, and this answer involves something called imaginary numbers. And we're not going to do imaginary numbers in this class, so we're not even going to talk about that. Let's just stop at this point and say there's no real answer. There's no real answer. And I think there's a way to do that right over here. The solution is not a real number. Okay, that's what you got to do for that problem if you end up having a square root of a negative number. So I'll check my answer, and I got that one right. Okay. Not hard to remember. Just you can't take the square root of a negative number. It just doesn't work. Okay. And you have to have some other math involved in order to get the representation of the answer. And we just don't know the math right now. And you don't need to know it for Algebra 2. If you take tech math, you'll understand it there. All right. That's all we do. Next class. Let's see what the next one is. Next one, number 5. Okay. Clear this. Get rid, don't save it. Keep that one. File, new, okay. And basically what they're saying here is using the quadratic formula, solve this thing for x. Now, if you like magic number, try doing magic number. If you get the answer and you do everything right with magic number, then stuff it right into the problem. Okay? I'm not going to do it both ways. This is a chapter on formula. I'm going to use the formula. And so in order to use the formula right over there, I need my A, which is what? What's my A?
That's 3.
Very good. What's my B?
It's 2.
2. And what's my C?
It's minus 8.
Minus 8. Always with the sign. Very good. Minus 8. There you go. I got my numbers. And then this is not a big burden here. You know you're going to put, even if you did the old school, you need your squares, your x's, and your numbers. All they're asking you to do is retrieve the numbers, not the variables, but the numbers that are in that equation in that order. That's all. So all I'm going to do is say x equals one big fraction. On the bottom of that fraction is 2a. You might as well do 2 times 3 is 6. All right? That's what 2a is. 2 times 3 is 6. Negative b. B is 2. Negative b is negative 2. It's the opposite. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4. You got to do the powers first. Now the rest you write down 4 minus 4 times 3 times a negative 8. And so far so good. I think I plugged it in right. I got to multiply before you can take the square root. So let's see what that's negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Okay, negative 12, clear it, negative 12 times a negative 8 is 96, positive 96. I'm so happy because I'm getting a positive number there. And if you get a positive number, then you'll end up with an answer. This is 4. It's 4 right over here, plus 96 divided by 6. 4 plus 96 is 100, and I'm even happier. You know why? Because the square root of 100 I can do in my head. I don't need a calculator for that because that's a perfect square. Okay, that's 10. X equals -2 plus 10 plus or minus 10, or X equals -2 minus 10 over 6. All right, what do we got here? This is 8 over 6. All right, -2 plus 10 is 8, which is, you don't do 8 over 6, you do 4 over 3. Simplify your fractions, and this looks like it's going to be -12. Geez, my cords are all sticking over here. -12 over 6 equals -2, so those are my two answers. Right there and right there. This means, right up here, if you get a perfect square, I could have factored it using magic number. You would have gotten these answers using magic number. But don't go back and try to factor it. You're committed to doing this technique here. So you just got to go one step further and get those numbers out with the math. So let's put the -2 in front, comma. Was that 4/3? I remember it's 4/3. 4 over 3. Check your answer. Fantastic. That's all we do is fantastic. Fantastic. Great. Nice. Groovy.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Super.
Super duper. Let's see what we're going to do here. Let's close this out. Don't save this. Don't save that. Keep that one. File, new. Okay. It's all the same stuff, just different numbers. So let's, this is not standard form, right? 2x.
It's going to be -1.
-1, yeah. -3x. And even if you did the old way, you have to have an equal 0, so subtract the 1. So either way, you got to have that equal 0.
Mm-hmm.
Try to factor it if you can. If you can't, that's okay. That doesn't mean there's a bad answer. I would say, because it seems like a lot of students don't like plugging things in. I don't know why. They like the factoring because they're used to it all semester long. But I'm going to go with quadratic equation. I'm going to say, well, I need my A. A is 2. 2. What's B?
-3.
Very good. Very good. And what's C?
-1.
-1. There you go. Take these numbers, plug them in. X equals 1 big fraction. 2a. 2 times 2 is 4. So at least we got the bottom done. 4. Negative b means negative a -3, which is a +3. So whatever b is, negate it. -3 negative is +3, plus or minus. The square root of -3 times -3 is 9. You got to do that power. You got to do powers first. That's why I calculated that first. -4. Okay, -4. What's A? 4A. 4A, I got to put a 2 there. And C is -1. So plug in the -1 in there. And let me see if I can go in this direction. I got to do this multiplication. Let me copy what I got so far. 4, 3 plus and minus. Okay, copy that. 9. I'm going to copy the 9. And now what I'm going to do is say -4 times 2. -4 times 2 is -8. -8 times a -1 is 8. plus 8, positive 8. Positive 8. And you know what? Let's add those numbers together. That's the best we can do. That's a real number. That's an actual answer. Okay, 3 plus or minus the square root of 17. You can't take the square root of 17. That means you would have, if you tried to, that means you would have been spending a long, long time trying to factor this. You just can't factor this. This could not be factored. Okay, so the square root of 17 is part of the answer, and whenever you do factoring, there's no square roots involved. You cannot get a square root. So, but this is a legitimate number. A legitimate number, and that's my answer to that problem right there. So what I'm going to do is hopefully I'm going to stick it to the side here. Move this over here. I'm going to go click in here, click on that. Basically, we have one big fraction. On the bottom, we have a 4. Up top, I have a 3 with a plus and minus, square root of 17. Check your answer. Yay, yay, yay. Okay, you just have to have faith. Plug in the numbers. The only thing you can't have is a negative number under the square root. If underneath the square root you did the math correctly, you get a negative number, then it's not a real number. This is a real number. It's just that that real number has a square root in it, and you couldn't have factored it. So you can't do, you won't get any fractions or numbers or raw numbers there. What do you think?
Okay, it's okay.
Okay. That almost looks like what we did. That almost looks like what we did. Let's try another one. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, let's do this one. File. Let's close it. Close it out. Close it out. Don't save this. Keep that there. File, new. Okay. Move this over. I'm going to write down the original problem. 3q plus 93 equals, edit, undo, edit, undo, edit, undo, control. Let's do pound z, okay. Plus q squared equals 0. Well, we got the equal 0. But it's obviously not in the right order. Put this q squared in front with the sign. With the sign. Put the 3q with the sign, the positive 3q. Plus 93. And make it equal 0. Take a moment, see if you can factor it, because if you can factor it, you get the numbers right away and go on to the next problem, but I don't think you can factor that. So what I'm going to do next is say I need my A, B, and C to get my quadratic formula involved. A is 1, B is 3, C is 93. Okay, I'm going to now X equals, plug into the formula. 2A, 2 times 1 is 2 on the bottom. Negative B, B is 3, negative B is negative 3. Plus or minus the square root. You might as well do your B squares first, which is 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 4 times A is 1 times C is 93. Should I continue? The next thing I would do is multiply negative 4 times 1, negative 4, and that'll be negative 4. Negative 4 times 93. And if you want to, negative 4 times 93 is going to be a 372, negative 372. Okay. So you'll have -3 plus or minus 9 minus 372 over 2. And I'm going to stop. I'm not going to even bother wasting the time. 9 minus 372. The square root's going to have a negative number in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you get a negative number in it, then there's no answer. Check your answer. Well done. So, and you'd learn, if you take 100 level Peck math, they'll get into imaginary numbers so that you can solve stuff like this. But we're not going to do that here. What's that one? What's the next one? They're all the same. They're all the same. You know, we're going to do number 9, and we'll stop after number 9. They're all the same thing. Okay, so let's come over here. Close this. Don't save it. File, new, because it's really just plugging in, and I can't even make it interesting anymore. Negative 65 plus x squared equals 8x. Yeah. I have to have an equal 0, so I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. Okay, I'll have my equals 0. But then let's put it in the right order. See, none of these terms add up. They're not like terms. So the x squared, nothing combines. I'll put the x squared in front, minus 8x in the middle, minus 65. Oh, 65. You know what? I think I can factor this. Because 65 is 13 times 5, which subtract to be 8. So x and x, plus and minus. It looks like it, because plus and minus is negative 65. I'm going to say 13 and 5. 13 and 5 right there, giving me an answer of negative 5 and 13 is the right answer. Okay, negative 5, comma 13, enter. Well done. Well done. See, I did it. I took a moment to try to solve it using what we know, what we already know, I think, solidly.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this chapter involves the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just erase that formula? Oh, come on, don't do that to me. I did. I think I did. I think I erased the formula. Paint file. I erased the formula. Damn it. Anyway, let's write the formula down again. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it using a quadratic formula, and that'll be it. Okay, that'll be it. So let's see. X equals, okay, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And so I look at this equation here. I need my a. What's a? A
minus, it's minus 1.
No, the number in front of the x squared. There's no negative number there.
It's 1, sorry, it's 1.
What's b?
Minus 8.
Minus 8. And what's c?
It's minus 65.
Minus 65, very good. Now we're going to plug those numbers in the formula. Plug them in the formula. So 2 times a. 2 times 1 is 2. Good. On the so then we got negative b. Negative and negative 8's 8. Plus or minus. Square root. Negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. You got to do that first. Now the rest I'm going to copy down. Minus 4 times a is 1. Times c is negative 65. Okay, it's getting kind of messy here. Okay, hold on. 2, 8 plus or minus square root of 64. Now I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to multiply -4 times 1 times
negative. It's going to be negative again, no?
Well, it could be positive. See, -4 times 1 times a negative. So it's -4 times a negative is going to be positive.
No. Okay.
4 times 55, 260 plus 260. That's what those numbers are. When you multiply these numbers out right there, that you get double negatives are going to end up being a positive, and then 260. So adding 260 to 64 is 324. And I bet you the square root of 324 is even. It's a perfect square because I know the answers came out even. So, and if you don't know, just take the calculator, 324, take the square root of it, and it just so happens that it's 18. So it's -8 plus or minus 18 over 2, which means I have two answers, -8 plus 18 over 2, which looks like -8 plus 18 is 10 over 2, which looks like it's 5, which I know is the right answer. Just whoa. That's whoa. That's, no. -8. Not -8. 8. Forget that. This is +8. +8. Okay.
Okay.
+8. Now it's looking better. Let me do a.
Positive. Okay.
Let me get rid of all this stuff here. Okay, get rid of this. Smooch this out. Okay. All right, come back here. This is 8 plus 18 is 26 over 2, which is your 13. There you go. There's one answer right that we know is right. And then the other answer is 8 minus 18 over 2, which is equal to -10 over 2, which is your -5. There you go. Those are your answers. That's all that section is. Okay? That's all that section is. Plugging in. So I guess next class we'll do 9.3, graphing. And I'll see you on Tuesday.
Okay. Have a great week.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Close that. Don't save that.
Is the last class Tuesday, Professor?
Yeah, and let's let you know the last class will be on Tuesday. It depends upon how that graphing works. I think it'll be okay. But if there's anybody needs any help, just email me. Then we can do a little Zoom session or something. For the you don't have to be there. I can do a Zoom session to answer some quick questions. Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.